How's spring practice going so far?
So we are 4 practices in, been very positive. I think the first thing, and I'm sure every coach you would talk to would talk about, you're going to expect effort first, and we're getting that. I think I was most pleased with, we really challenged the players pre-spring football with, when you have a new team, which is the new common, college football, right, in spring semesters, is you have a lot of guys that are coming back, and you got a lot of guys that are coming in, and so you have people at different levels of where, they're learning and retention, and so you do a lot. We installed a lot with them right away. We asked them to do a lot of things on their own, and they have, and it showed up out at spring. So I'm very proud of the work they did prior to spring football actually starting to make us practice better in spring. The practices that you have in spring, they're like gold. And everything that we do in this program is to protect them and to make sure that they're run really well and they're executed at the highest level we can. And they've done that. You know what I mean? We don't have a lot of mental errors. We don't have a lot of my bads out there. We have guys who are just going out there playing fast and wanting to be physical and wanting to be coached. And so that really, as a teacher and a coach, that's all you can ask for.
Andy, you've always liked the tight ends. What do you see from the new guys from the portal?
Well, they're all new to me, really, right? Coming back. So the whole lot of them between Kier and Bruno, Jay Butt and Carter, coming in, the 4 older guys really right now that are coming in and taking a lot of the reps. I've been impressed, as you know, and as you pointed out, John, we love utilizing tight ends and what they do. We ask them to do a lot, okay? And Coach Lubick and Coach Matos have done a great job of kind of getting those guys ready to do a lot. Kind of like what I was saying before about we put a lot on them before we even practiced to learn and prepare so that we could have really good practices. Because we're going to practice like who we are on day one. We don't want to go out there and do things that we're actually not going to call games on Saturday in the fall. So we're doing things that put stress on the defense and shifting in motion, and those things are, takes a little bit for us to teach and a little bit for us to learn. And those 4 tight ends have, I thought, really done a nice job of that. And there's, Hovey and Jack being here, right, and Q Conley getting here and doing things like all 7 of those guys have done a really nice job.
Andy, Lance talked at the end of last year and then yesterday or the other day too about evaluating everything this offseason and really taking a look and a close look at what you can do better here. You've obviously been through that with him before at other places. How difficult was that for you to be a part of that this time around?
Well,
you weren't here last year.
Yeah, so that's a great question. How do you come in? And it's really pretty easy to always be an outsider and be critical of things. You know what I mean? So that's what you have to be careful of. And in everywhere I've been, no matter how successful or unsuccessful the season was, I think if you're a process-oriented person, your journey or your process to get your team better in the offseason should be pretty consistent. Do you know what I mean? And I think what I've appreciated about Coach and how he's been, and he's always been this way in terms of having a growth mindset, right? And talking a little bit about, what you're saying in terms of evaluating everything all the time. And he's always done that, though. Do you know what I mean? I think he has never been comfortable, or he's never certainly ever said, hey, this is how we've always done it. Do you know what I mean? And if you were to go back to when I first coached with him, whatever year that was, God, it's over the decade ago now, right? 13 maybe, 12, I don't, whatever. We do things way different than we did then. Sure. Do you know, right? So he's always had a growth mind. He's always evolved and grown. What's been positive, for me, and what makes me feel like I can have an impact or be part of the impact certainly is when we come in and ideas and there's stimulation of thought and different ways to do things, and it's certainly not just me and him, it's everyone in the staff room. Everyone's been really open-minded about doing, things as best as possible. And a lot of times, candidly, the answer is we are doing it the right way. Let's just continue to double down and emphasize it and make sure, it's getting done at the right way at the highest level.
Is there something you guys are doing that you learned from your time at Penn State that is new for this Kansas team?
I don't think so. Nothing that would be specific worth mentioning. I think when you look at just football at any level, right, guys, and I'm going to just go a little coach speak here, you know what I mean? It's always going to be about blocking and tackling and execution and being physical and all the, buzzword things and sound bites that you would all be looking for. But because those are true. Do you know what I mean? And so the real challenge is is like, what do we want to do that can still push us to doing the things that coach and the program want to emphasize, being tough, physical football team, right? Okay. Effort, right? All those kind of things that do matter a ton. How are other ways that we can stimulate the thought and the understanding of that with our football players and our whole football organization, right? And so there'll be nothing specific. There's no unique drill or anything like that, because again, I've worked with them for a long time. So there's a pretty damn good chance that we've done that drill at some point in the past. It's like plays now. For me, I've coordinated for so many years that it's like, it's cyclical. I'm like, I called that back in 2007. You know what I mean? Like that's a real thing. You know what I mean? And quarterback sneaks were really cool 30 years ago too. You know what I mean? Now they're super cool, right? Right? Okay. So like there's a cyclical piece to when you coach long enough, like some of us, right? Okay. Not that I'm that old, but that just sometimes you just got to reframe it so it maybe stimulates a little more energy in you and then to the guys that you're talking to, right?
Seeing the running backs out there, it's very clear you have different body types and skill sets. And obviously, like Dupree's not even out there yet, but how do you see the interplay between the different things that those guys are providing and how much of an asset can that be?
Well, you kind of talked about, like you said it, right? Well, what's the interplay? Like there's a complementary piece, right? The yin and the yang, if you will. I think any skill position, but really any position, it's not they play the spot, it's who they are. Okay? This tight end, this receiver, this running back, every one of those positions have different types of people in those rooms. So our number one responsibility as coaches is to identify the capabilities and the skill sets of said individuals and put them in a position to go out there and do it. Now you're going, yeah, thanks coach, I'm really glad I came here for that. Okay? But saying that shit and actually doing it and executing and putting a plan in it as a coach and like actually calling it on Saturdays are two totally different things. Because every coach across the country is going to say BS like that. But when you really dial in the tape, they're just a system-based team. They ask their why to do the same thing every play or these 8 things or whatever it is. And I understand why they do that. But so our responsibility is I want them to take a Yasin and a Dylan. They're different people. Ask them to do and put them in a position to do what they do best. Right? And that goes to every position. Right?
So is there anything you learned about Dylan in these initial practices, or is he the talent you thought he was?
Oh yeah, he has been who we wanted him and expected him to be, as a football player for sure. What I probably didn't know was his competitiveness. You know what I mean? He's kind of a quiet, more reserved individual, but then when he gets on the football field, he'll get going, and it's fun to watch. He's been awesome. He's been super coachable, and excited to work with him. It's awesome.
What have you seen from the QB room and the overall competition?
Well, the last words you said is the competition has been fantastic. I've seen a group of guys who have totally taken ownership over their own development and growth, and that is so important as a player. When you talk to recruits and people, everyone wants to get developed. Tell them, Coach, I want to be developed so I can play professional football. That's great. What the hell does development mean to you? And fundamentally, what it means is, at least from our chair as the coaches, is we got to be great teachers. Okay? And what does that look like? And we have to have intentionality a little bit, what we were talking about here before. But then they as individuals have to have the desire to learn the what and the why and the how to be a better football player. They have the desire to do that. And those guys have done a fantastic job of having the desire to want to grow and improve. And they've been super critical of themselves, which is what happens at that position, or really any position when you're in a competition. But nobody's shrinked away or felt the pressure and anxiety of doing it. They're just going out there and playing. And I really, really appreciate it about all those guys.
What do you like about what you guys added in the offensive line room?
Length, athleticism, and physicality. All those things, and those have showed up already out in practice film. I've seen it with those cats. You know what I mean? And some of those guys have some more playing experience than others, but certainly those physical attributes. And they kind of got some nastiness to about them. You know what I mean? Some of those guys, which I love. You know what I mean? I want us to be really physical and aggressive football team, and especially up front, I want our guys to be very nasty. And then those guys have that to them, and we embrace that as a football program. You know what I mean? Being a tough physical team.
What's it like seeing Calvin a couple years down the line from when you left and how he's grown?
Well, when I was here, he credit to him, and as you guys have probably interacted with him, such a mature person to begin with. But then to see his maturity grow a little bit more, right? Like none of the players want to hear this crap, but I'm gonna say it anyway because we've all been that age. Okay, you do go from being a young man to a man, typically around the age of college, and so as I come back to see he's a man now. Do you know what I mean? Like you can talk to him like a man, right? And again, they don't want to hear that crap. I got you. Right? Yeah, okay. I've been 17, 18, 19, 20 before too. You're not yet, okay? Like you got a lot of life to live. But he is matured into being a man, both intellectually and emotionally, and then his leadership has grown so much for us.
Hey Andy, you've done a lot of things offensively. At what point with coming back do you start seeing the guys in the spring? You start thinking about what the offense will look like in the fall?
The literal moment I saw him move the first time. The literal moment I saw him first run around a cone. And you start saying to yourself, here's somebody who's really athletic. Here's somebody who's really twitchy. Here's how he should get the ball. Here's how he should be involved in the run game. Here's how he should be involved in the pass game. And then we tell the guys, and you've heard this before too, I'm sure, like every college program says, every day's an evaluation. That's so true. Every time I watch somebody move, every time I watch somebody catch a ball, every time I watch somebody block, or every time I watch somebody change a direction, they're painting the picture, and the picture just gets a little clearer and clearer and clearer every time you watch them. And really what you look for in why practice and being around the players and seeing them and evaluating is so important is because you're looking for the ones who can consistently do it. Anybody can make a big time catch in one-on-ones. Once. Can you do it day after day? Right? Anyone can run off the ball and knock the hell out of somebody and block them. Once. Can you do it day after day? Right? And so when you watch guys in winter workouts, when you watch them in traditional workouts, when you watch them in meetings, when you watch them in walkthroughs, when you watch them in practice, in one-on-ones, whatever you're doing, they're painting a picture of themselves, right? And now, of course, we help them, right, and develop by helping guide the brushstrokes, if you will, not to get all artistic here in the room, but that's kind of what we have to do as coaches. But it's immediate, and it's always, all the time.
You mentioned meetings. Just do you bounce around to different rooms, or just how do you handle that?
It's a good question. How do we handle meetings, or how do I handle meetings? And so one, Coach Leipold does this, I think, amongst the whole staff, and every department is really empowering the people that work in the building. So typically how we do things is after a practice, we will call we'll evaluate the film as a staff. We'll get on the same page about things that, that compliment them on, things that we got to correct them on. And then we'll come into the unit room and we'll have, something that we all have to get on the same page in offense. Because I think that's really important. It really doesn't matter what we do. It just matters we're all on the same page about how it's supposed to be and why we're doing it. So we get in there. There could be anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes of information that's going to be presented to the group, and then they're going to split into their position groups. And I will go wherever I feel, maybe an emphasis or another set of eyes needs to be, or to over communicate. The natural thing is to gravitate towards the quarterback room because, they pull the trigger. But I like to go around, and I want our staff and myself to be on the cutting edge of the best teaching practices. And so when I stand in front of the offense, I want to be considered a really good teacher, and I want the staff to tell me if there's things that I need to be doing better as a teacher, and I ask for feedback from the players and all that kind of stuff. And then when I go to a room, I'm not really interjecting that much as more of I am. I'm saying, oh, hey, I was in the O-line room the other day, and I saw Coach Egg Paulsa had little whiteboards for all of his players, and he has them draw the fronts and and how to block the front. And I go, well, that's a really good thing that we could be doing in the receiver room, or the tight end room, so that the guys don't have to get up all the time and you save time. It's more efficient. I'm like, oh, that's the kind of stuff that I love to do, is to make sure that as a staff, we're always on the front end of the best teaching practices.
With Coach Zabrowski.
Why only one, Daniel? What's the problem? Are we in a hurry or something today? Okay.
With Coach.
I just want the record to show that Daniel Burke is the one that's giving me the hook here, okay? Noted. Can we get that out there a little more publicly, please?
We like Daniel.
We love Daniel.
With Zabrowski being the pass game coordinator, how's that synergy kind of coming together now that you're out there actually coaching these guys?
Like I think I had said this in maybe my first time talking to you guys, it's kind of like getting back on a bike again with him. You know what I mean? And what I've always really appreciated about Jim and why I think we complement so well, he always checks to be like, are we on the same page about things? Do you know what I mean? And he's like, hey, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to have Isaiah go over here and this, and and this is what the reps he's going to take because he needs to come over here and get these reps next. And then we're doing this with the receiver, and we're telling him to make sure he's doing this, and we need to run a post route on this one. And coach and I'm thinking we should follow up with a quick game to make sure that we're saving the guy's legs. And he's having these, thought-provoking, conversations that he's initiating. You know what I mean? And I have appreciated that a ton about him. Because he's really, really good and excels at scheming and thinking of other ways to do things, which is really good. That's it, huh, Daniel? Did you see how everyone looked?
A couple more.
Oh, you said a couple? No, he said one more, did he not?
I said a couple.
I couldn't hear.
Henry has one more. I heard a couple.
You heard a couple? Okay, all right, Daniel. That's fair. I'm sorry. Let me take it back. Let me make a public apology for my guy at Burke over here who said one more, and now we can do a couple. Okay.
I do have one, if
Go
that's-
ahead.
Do you have to make things, I guess, simpler than they would be otherwise because it's your first year back and it's the first year here for a lot of the players? Because I feel like when you were here before, there was a lot of the fact that you had a lot of returning players here when you were several. I think you had a Lego analogy.
Well, that analogy is still true, and that's still what it is,
Okay.
right? Like when you look at football and you look at offenses, when a play, 11 players are 11 different Lego pieces that need to be stacked and organized in a way to make some sort of sculpture that we can all appreciate, right? That's still true, right? There were times in the past, and I think, and this is probably a mistake that you can make, is that when you feel like there's a large number of players returning, the reality is still is you might feel like X number of players are coming back, and that's a big percentage. And I've had this happen multiple times in a career. There's still a smaller percentage that isn't at their level or doesn't have their experience. So you can really only move as fast as that group is going to allow you to move, right? It's like when you're growing up, like your heart and lungs can't grow at a different rate. You follow what I'm saying? Like you have to grow together. So we still have to have that as an offense, right? And so it's not that it's more simple, it's more taking an evaluation on the front end of where are we at. And knowing that there's a huge continuation from January 1st to when we kick the ball off in August or September, whenever our first kickoff is, okay? Like there's a huge continuation of growth that can happen, right? And some guys are here right away. Some guys have been here, you know what I mean? Some of this language is the same, some of it's new. So you really kind of have to always approach it like you're back at the jump, right? And know that you have to continue to stimulate and coach the most mature and experienced player in your room as well as the least experienced player in the room. And that's the challenge, right? And that's, you have to be able to do that though.
Andy, a couple quick ones. Are you in your same office? Are you parking in the same spot? Things like that?
I am in the same office. I am not, I don't know, sometimes I park in the same spot. It's a mess out there, right? It's a dogfight, man. Jeez. Right? Like you all know, right? That parking, KU parking, they don't mess around. Shout out KU parking, right? They don't mess around, and we got to respect it. You know what I mean? So I stay between the lines, and I go to the open spot that they give me, right? And that I can find in the morning. It really depends on how early I get here, what time it is. So I don't have the same spot every day.
Yeah.
Although I would like one.
Does that help? It's a cheesy question, I guess, but does that help with continuity? Like walking into that same office, sitting at that same desk? I mean, does that feel almost?
There's a certain level of comfort that can happen with that, and you have to be very careful that's what it is, right? Like all of a sudden you get comfortable, and I appreciate Coach Leipold and how he's welcomed me back and allowed me to speak up, right, and talk, even though it's probably very annoying to him most of the time, and others. Because what you don't want to do is go back and fall into the same routine. You know what I mean? Because we all should be different people 2 years later, right? We should be better people, right? Through the experiences if we're learning from them, So, yes, I go to the same office, right? And I think the chair might be a little bit different. The chairs that people can sit in are different, right? As a matter, some of the crap in the desk drawer might even been the same from when I was there the first time. But our emotions, our experiences, we're different people, right, in the building, for sure.
Thanks, everyone.
Well, that's it, Daniel. Now we're done? Thank you, guys. I appreciate you.